Hey guys, today we're taking a look at my Genex deck as requested by Simply Yugioh. Now, Genex is an archetype of synchro monsters, but more than that, they're an archetype that based around certain attributes that bring out certain attribute synchro monsters to activate certain abilities and things like that. And then they have different parts of the archetype like R-Genex and Genex Ally, and they all do some different things. The main issue with this archetype is I think it can be a bit slow. But if you support it with the right cards, you can start to get out synchro monsters that have really annoying abilities for your opponent to deal with that can make them very powerful. So first off, we have Genex Neutron. So pretty much a staple in any Genex deck, an 1800 attack card that can search out your entire deck. So very good to get those tuners out. And then Genex Controller, just used as a tuner monster, kind of annoying that he has no effect to mess with, but if he's a normal monster, you can support him with other cards as well. You definitely need some copies of this to get out your tuners, even though you have cards that can replace him, that can change their name and stuff like that. It's still important to have a lot of these cards that act as tuners in the deck to continually get out synchros after you lose your synchros as well. And then we have Genex Undine, just allowing you to get out the water synchro. Nice that you can kind of search out your deck and get what you need, so that can be useful in the early game. Genex Ally Remote, definitely a lot better than Controller in my opinion because he has that nice defense, so you can put him out in defense mode and then change his name to Genex Controller later, so it can be very effective. And then I'm running 2 Tragoedia. I think Tragoedia can be a really useful card in this deck because of it can be slow. It backs you up to get out this monster very easily. You have some variety of levels, so you can use his effect pretty easily. And you can change levels to bring out those other synchros very easily. I think it adds to the speed of the deck that you can kind of come back from having nothing on the field very easily. And then Genex Searcher, just allowing you to special summon those Genex monsters very quickly, can be very nice. Kind of like a Mystic Tomato for this deck specifically, which can be very nice. And then Genex Furnace. Obviously a single tribute can be kind of annoying, but the fact is that you can normal summon it without tributing if you have Genex Controller on the field is very good, because that's mostly what he's used for, is bringing out those synchros. And because we're running double summon, we have the ability to get this out pretty easily. And then Blackluster Soldier, we do have some light and we have a good amount of dark. Definitely can be a choice in this deck, but I still think it's pretty useful. And one Genex Ally Birdman, very effective card. I wish it wasn't at 1. But speeds up the combos considerably to synchro summon. Now for the spell cards, running 3 double summon, usually not the best card, but I think in this deck it's just necessary to speed up what you're doing because pretty much all of the deck comes from doing 2 normal summons, and it's very hard to do that and keep your opponent from destroying your monsters. So I think it's very good to have cards like this or other cards that stall and do similar things. And then 2 MST. 2 Forbidden Lance I find to be pretty necessary in this deck because you're focusing on these powerful synchro monsters, and also helpful that if your opponent wants to run over them, you'll have some backup. Limiter Removal, pretty much most of the synchros are machines, and a decent amount of the main cards are machines as well, so it can be very effective. And Dark Hull and Machine Assembly Line, just a card I'm kind of trying out. Can be interesting to power up these machine monsters and allowing us to bring back monsters, which can be very useful. So definitely messing with this, and I think it can be really good. For the traps, 2 Waboku. Again, we really need to stall our opponent in order to get our synchros out. So we have a lot of back row in addition to Dimensional Prison, Mirror Force, 2 Fiendish Chain, and other staples. So now for the extra deck, we're pretty much going to have 2 of most of the Genex synchros that we'll be able to get out. Hydrogenex, helping us gain life points. Triarm and Triforce, giving us a huge variety of effects that can be very useful. And then Thermal Genex, obviously with the fire Genex, can do big damage late in the game, so it can be interesting. And the staples that I think will be most useful, Black Rose, Scrap Dragon, and Crimson Blader. For the XYZs, 2 Zenmaines might be too much, but we have a lot of 3 stars, and stalling is very important for this deck, so I like having Zenmaines. 1 Gear Gigant, because we do have machines, and this can be very useful to search out things. And then Exciton Knight, just one of the XYZs, I find to be extremely useful, especially when you lose a lot of your resources bringing out those synchros. So now for the side deck, if you haven't seen a video of mine before, side decks are where I just kind of talk about, other card choices that could be interesting for this deck. It's not meant to be a side deck for matches. These are cards I want to suggest for you guys if you're building your own Genex deck and you want to have an idea of some other interesting cards. So you can run like R-Genex Oracle, and you can mix it with other interesting things. One of the things I heard about is you can do Oracle plus Malefic. So Malefic Blue Eyes and R-Genex Oracle could make our Locomotion R-Genex over here. So there's some interesting things you could do. R-Genex is obviously a very powerful monster. You could also run Genex Recycled. Because he's 1-star, I don't really like running him, but you can run him in addition to other like support cards. Like you can run like Machine Duplication, so you could do some interesting plays as well. That can also work with Genex Ally Remote. So definitely some interesting things. Genex Turbine is an interesting card. It's just used to kind of bump up all your Genex monsters, so it can be interesting. I'm definitely debating running it, but 400 attack, it's debatable. On its own, it's 1800 though, so it still can be a good card. Then we have Genex Blastfan. If you have the ability to special summon this card, it can be very nice because you're special summoning it and then adding those Dark Genex and then synchroing very quickly. So that can be very, very useful. Cyber Dragon, another interesting card. You can run this with other stuff and do like fusions and just bring out quick monsters. It just can be an interesting play. Flamvells is an interesting archetype you can mix this with because you can turn all the tuners that Flamvells have into Genex controller. So there's some interesting stuff you can do with Genex Ally Remote. Not really going to go too much into it, but you guys can try to mess with that if you want. Genex Ally Axel is another interesting one you can use. I'm currently not big fan of using it, but it's out there if you want to use it. Like I said before, Locomotion R-Genex, if you have the ability to get this out, definitely run it. Very powerful. If you want, you can run higher level XYZs. If you want to turn your synchros into high level XYZs, like Dracosac and Petalemi, that's up to you. A bit much to focus on though. Solidarity, if you're running full machines, you can run Solidarity, make those Genex monsters a lot more powerful so they can stay out. Machine Duplication, I talked about that a little bit. We are already running Forbidden Lance, but it's a choice in this deck, so you can run that or you can run more back row and keep Forbidden Lance on the side if you want to. That's definitely a choice. And DNA Transplant can be a very interesting card for this deck, changing all the attributes and allowing you to do other plays. Also works in an interesting way with Genex allies and some of the things that they can do as well. So that's my Genex deck. Still getting the hang of it. Still kind of messing with a lot of different choices. There's a lot of different builds. There's a lot of different things you can do because the archetype is pretty big in terms of the monster count. But if you guys have your own Genex decks, you can post below, let me know in the comments. You could talk about what cards you use, make suggestions for me. Maybe there's some cards I didn't think about, so that could be really interesting. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.